This is the first in a few, I think, 3 or 4 videos that I'm going to do on blood, chapter 6. And this one's just kind of an overview of blood in general. A lot of this stuff you know, a lot of this stuff sounds familiar. And so hopefully it will bring it up to the next level to help you understand some of these things you've heard before. So we're going to talk about the functions of the blood in the human body, the formed elements, and a little bit about plasma. There's some background information here about blood, but I think we all realize that blood is really important. There's no way to function without blood. We're a multicellular organism, and we need to transfer oxygen and get rid of waste, transfer nutrients throughout our body. So the blood is really the way to connect a lot of the organ systems. And here it talks about some of the major functions of blood. It says transport, defense, and regulation. And so that transport is kind of what I'm talking about. Is the blood's the primary transport media. It's going to transport oxygen and distribute it to all the cells. So none of our cells are very far from a capillary, because the nutrients in the blood and the oxygen in the blood need to diffuse into the cells, and the waste from the cells need to go into the blood so it can be removed from the body. And it's talking about that here, how the blood's picking up nutrients from the digestive system, it's picking up oxygen from the lungs and carrying those things throughout the body. Remember, we talked about aerobic cellular respiration, where our cells need they need food, they need glucose, they need oxygen in order to make energy. And so that's what the blood is critical in delivering those things to cells. The other things, we've all heard of hormones, and hormones are chemical signals in the body. So the blood is important in carrying hormones throughout the body, and again, allowing our cells to communicate. It mentions hemoglobin here. Hemoglobin's a really important protein in carrying oxygen, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more. So the second major function of blood is defense. And again, these are things that you already know. I think most of you have some idea of what a phagocyte is. These are some of our white blood cells that engulf foreign things like bacteria, viruses, or even old damaged cells. So, and these are white blood cells that are important in the blood. Some of our white blood cells make antibodies. And again, we're kind of got that idea of what antibodies are. They're proteins made by some white blood cells to fight off pathogens, to fight off things like bacteria and viruses. So these are really important in defending the body. This section down here is talking about a role of the platelets in defense, and defense in the form of blood clotting. So it's defending us against blood loss. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that in this series of lectures. The last one on here, as far as functions of blood, is regulation. And we've talked a little bit about the concept of homeostasis, that a living organism needs an environment that stays stable, that's consistent, and the blood is critical to helping us regulate the body and maintaining homeostasis. So right now it's a little bit chilly out, and my body's warm, but my hands are cold. And so part of that, the reason for that is something that's going on with the cardiovascular system. The temperature's a little bit low, so the blood vessels in my fingers are actually contracting, diverting the blood away from my hands to keep my body warm. So more of the blood is in my body. It's critical that we keep our heart and our lungs and our organs and our brain all warm, more critical than keeping our hands and feet warm. So the blood is critical in that process. On here, it also mentions osmotic pressure. We spent some time talking about osmosis and how it's important to balance salt in water, or else cells shrivel up or pop. And the blood is critical in maintaining the proper osmotic pressure, so our cells function normally. So we put that under regulation. When you look at the composition of blood, the two main things are the formed elements and the plasma. So the formed elements are the cellular kinds of things, and the plasma is the liquid that they're suspended in. The formed elements in particular are the red blood cells, the white blood cells, and the platelets. And so all of those are suspended in the liquidy part of the blood called the plasma. And there's some cool stuff there, but we just don't have time to talk about everything. So if we just mention plasma, like I said, plasma is the liquid portion of the blood. In fact, here's a kind of a nice picture that's showing you the composition of blood. If you were to separate out the parts, here we have, this is the cells, the red cells and platelets, and then the plasma portion. So you can see that that makes up a large portion of the blood. 91% of the plasma is water. But there's other things in there too. It's not just water. There's salts, ions, organic molecules. And here's a list of some of the proteins, important proteins that are also in the plasma. We mentioned that word buffer that helps a solution maintain a constant pH. And so in the plasma, there also are chemicals that act as buffers and maintain pH. The pH of the blood, most people initially think that blood pH is going to be 7 at neutral, but it's actually around 7.4. It's just barely basic, and that's the buffering. What the buffers do is keep the blood pH at around 7.4. Let's see, there's some proteins in the plasma that help maintain that osmotic pressure, keep the blood isotonic to our cells. This is a nice little video that you might want to watch. This is talking about some of the proteins in the blood, in the plasma. Albumins are really important in maintaining osmotic pressure. Globulins are antibodies. It says they're also known as antibodies. And fibrinogen is a protein that's involved in clotting blood. So, and that has to be very highly regulated or else our blood would just randomly clot. So we'll talk a little bit about that when we get to platelets. There's a couple questions. I think I had you answer questions 1 and 2. And yeah, I think 3 would probably be okay too. Let's go with that. All right. I'm going to stop there.